Hello, welcome to the Witch of the Bog editing breakdown video in celebration of 10,000 Witch of the Bog views. At the time of creating this video, it is now pushing 20k. I think we just hit 19. So big deal, obviously. And, despite being a week or two late, I still wanted to make this editing breakdown video for those of you interested. Introductions. My name's Alex Pither. I'm a co-founder at Albatross Pictures. I hope you've been enjoying what we've been up to. To begin, this is the editing software I use. I use DaVinci Resolve Studio. We're on the project file for Witch of the Bog. This is kind of the overview of the timeline. So start of the film is this red line. End of the film is this gray line back here. And everything in between is the movie. So to kind of give you a idea of what we're looking at, this is kind of Act 1, this is kind of Act 2 in the middle, and this is kind of Act 3 at the end. I also recommend you watch the movie first before watching this, not only for spoilers, but also for context. We're going to flip from the overview mode to the assembly mode, or the editing mode. And I'll just kind of skim through this and pause where I think more information or more context or explanation would be helpful or good. So to begin, this is our new header. I was very excited to present that with the film. Just a nice little animation. And then there's about 5 seconds of black, and then you get this vocal in. And this kind of sets the tone. I'm a big Lord of the Rings guy. I love the opening vocals in Fellowship. And I kind of wanted to do that, just to kind of have that, what would the right word be? Kind of mystique and just world building, kind of mysterious. It is kind of a horror film, so I just wanted some just some atmospheric music on the black screen to get you into it. And then we cut in, and we don't only cut in, but there's this blur effect that I do to kind of give it a out-of-body experience. And this is just a still photo, so this isn't actual moving footage yet. This is just a still photo, and as you can see here, the scale is slowly pushing up. And then right when we hit this cut here, we cut to the actual piece of footage, and she enters frame. I should have also mentioned everything green is audio, and everything blue is picture or footage. Let's see. Yeah, and then we cut, and I do another little blur transition, because I'm purposely waiting to reveal her face. I don't want the audience to know exactly what's going on yet, so it's kind of blurry, shallow depth of field, she's facing away from the camera. Meanwhile, we're cutting to kind of world building, just pretty static shots of different elements of the world. My buddy Bailey helped me with the CG mushroom. The stem is real, but the head of the mushroom is not. We kind of did a little glow effect. I think it looks really nice. Comes in and out of focus too, with the rest of the shot. These walking shots, I love that we got this natural kind of lens. It's not even a flare, it's more of a spill, like a lens spill. Kind of hits the camera. I have this pretty tight 56 millimeter with a crop factor of 1.5, gets you about 84. So that's like a pretty portrait lens. And one of the like aberrations, all lenses, all glass have to do with physics. So one unique factor of my 50 is you get these green rainbow effects. On some projects, I purposely avoid it because it just doesn't fit. But with this one, with the kind of enchanted forest feel, it ended up working quite well, and I quite like it. But yeah, these kind of bands, these streaks here, is what I'm referring to. It happens 2 or 3 times in the film. This is the cross, which alludes to, obviously, the main set piece later on. Continuing to walk, I just kind of told her to walk. I just pointed in a direction and said, walk for a minute, and I'll see what I can get from behind you. And there are these natural moments where she slows and steps over things and ducks under and pushes branches out of the way. This was a cool thing I found on a trail in Austin, Texas, which is where this film is shot. I was debating having water in the film, because I'm like, water is a very peaceful thing. This film is a horror film with black magic, and it's darker. So I was debating water, but ultimately I chose it because these formations are really cool. I don't know if these have been like logged and chopped down, or if they just, I don't know. I'm not a treeologist, but it's very cool, and it reminds me of like black magic and just something you would see in a fantasy world, so I kept it. And then you'll notice we have nothing down here on this first video track, and it's instead up here. Well, why is that? That is because it overlays on this bottom track. And what that does is I'm able to mask this. So essentially, I can actually probably show you. If we go into the VFX area, and then we come up to clips, and we scroll to here, we have this polygon and these keyframes, these white keyframes. So as the tree branch comes across, I've basically masked in this transition, which is like a transitional wipe or like a physical wipe, because it's using something physically in camera to wipe across the screen, as opposed to a Star Wars wipe where it's just a graphic essentially, or a post effect. But no, I essentially add in this polygon that peels across the screen, and then with a little bit of soft edge, because this wouldn't look good. So you get a little bit of soft edge in there. It looks like the other side of the tree. But if we didn't have this here, it would just be black, if you see what I mean. So we go from this shot, tree, we wipe, but then there's nothing here. So there has to be something beneath this for the lower layer to come through. And then we wipe to this shot, and it's ultimately just a much smoother, more fluid way of entering the next part of the film. And this is where like in-camera audio begins to rise and music becomes to come down. And this is where we get our face reveal. I kind of told her to keep her head down as she walks towards. I had to really keep an eye on focus to ensure that these branches and this tree trunk don't pull it away from her, so that when she comes out from behind the tree, the camera's not searching for focus. It already has it. On a professional film set, you would have like a focus puller, but it was just her and I, so I had to get a little smart with it. Music's gone, pulls off her hood, and then for whatever reason she chooses to camp in this specific spot. I don't elaborate on that, but you can look at the directorial notes in the description of the video on YouTube and get a little bit more information regarding the world and why she may be doing what she's doing. But then she sits here. Why are there 2 video tracks on top of each other, seemingly duplicated? Well, let's see what happens when I get rid of this one. This left part of the frame to the left of this tree becomes less brilliant lighting-wise. I wanted a very, again, enchanted forest look. So we ultimately chose to heighten that and adjust the levels, and I believe there's also a glow effect. Yeah. So we did a little bit of a yellow glow effect, and that just makes the forest appear deeper and more fantastical. This is filmed on a different day, months later. So her hair changes. Nobody really noticed, which is nice. We kind of have a radial blur coming in, so the entire frame doesn't blur evenly. It kind of blurs in a circle, hence the word radial. So you'll notice around her begins to warp. And then we essentially do like a match jump cut. So we just line up her face on both ends of the cut and radial blur out, and then it kind of looks like she's been magically transported. And then we cut wide, and she's kind of in this clearing with this cross and this table. You can actually see the knife before we introduce it. And then she approaches the cross. This is going to be very, very laggy in the software, just because there's quite a lot going on here that I won't get too much into. I'm going to try to keep this video short. We're already at 13. I'll try to keep this video around 20. But, yeah, this is the cross here, and then she gets hit with this gust of wind. When she touches the cross, it'll be tough to see because it's lagging.
What do you wonder?
But yeah, right here with her hair, I essentially waved a piece of like cardboard paper here, and you could actually see it, just barely. It wasn't bad, but I didn't want it there, so I had to do a lot of masking to get rid of that. There was some masking back here that Bailey helped me with, because there was like this modern day plaque explaining what the courtyard's purpose, or what the clearing's purpose was, and we didn't want that there, so that's gone. There's a couple other non-visible effects that's going on here just to make it a nicer shot.
I've heard rumors.
We can talk a little bit about the witch audio. So these two tracks here, so solo, right here, now we only hear the witch's voice. Let's actually do this here.
What exactly do you believe you know?
So, there's two witch tracks. And the reason I chose to do that is if we get rid of one and we're just listening to this one.
What exactly do you believe you know?
So with a little bit of like flang, like a little bit of flanger effect and pitch shift. So yeah, flanger, these are the flanger settings, and then in audio, we're down negative 12 tones, and a little bit of equalization and compression gets us the second track. So I'll play that one by itself. So obviously not very good on its own, but in tandem with the natural track,
What exactly do you believe you know?
it gives it a very like the voice is in her head as opposed to physically like in the air as if we're talking to each other, if that makes sense. So I wanted to give it a little bit of, again, I keep bringing up black magic because that's very much what this world and what this film revolves around. So I wanted to continue alluding to the fact that this isn't just a everyday encounter. So I did some audio engineering. It makes me sound way more talented than I actually am to get that effect. We jump cut in when the witch kind of insinuates that the girl is dealing with something more than what she understands. And then we cut to here where the knife gets pulled across the table. And that's just a little, like if I remove this mask, you can see the rope that I used. So I was right down here underneath the table. There's nobody behind the camera. I was right under here beneath the table. She was obviously here. All of this audio has been reconstructed, so I just pulled on the knife and went, Brandis, and she flipped. And it just kind of shows how little we were working with. But yeah, a little bit of a mask effect gets rid of that. You would have to look very carefully. You can barely see it, but I figured just a little mask was all that was needed. And then she grabs the knife, and we kind of do like a tracking shot. As she brings it to her hand, she already has blood in her hand. I know I'm ruining the magic, but she already has blood in her hand, and you can actually see some of it drip before she cuts herself. Again, we're not working with super high-end stuff, so you just cut there.
Yeah.
The witch is in the background, and then we cut a little bit later and we watered the blood down, and she can kind of play into that and make it look like she's bleeding. And then this shot is another tracking shot, and I actually kind of delayed my track, so as you can see her hand leaves the frame, and that's because we already had the blood on the cross. We wanted a very even, nice-looking handprint, so we did that before the shot, and then I was just purposely a little bit late on the track, because obviously if the frame was up there, you would be able to see that there was already blood on the wood. But because I'm a little bit late, it looks as though she does it. So that's what we were going for there. And then this is a very like Midsummer inspired shot. If you've seen Ari Aster's Midsummer, beautifully shot film, very aesthetically stylized. So I wanted to incorporate a little bit of that, especially with the reflections in the eyes and kind of looking up into the light. That's very like Midsummer. So I wanted to get a little bit of that inspiration in there. We kind of did some macro photography to just get some the fact that she was bleeding onto the forest floor. And then she turns, and this is one of the toughest shots in the film, at least on a I think this is going to go over 20. Yeah, go a little bit over 20. But if you find this interesting, that'll be a positive.
Every sunset until you have no more blood to give.
And then she kind of gets the news that the witch is kind of toying with her, and their demands are not as they seemed. And the reason the shot was so difficult is because I'm like racking back and forth between the cross and her.
Fine. And if I choose not to return?
And then she looks back into the camera, closes her eyes, we do another blur effect, and then we cut to this white color, and then we fade in, and the next shot just happens to be facing up into the sky, and with a little bit of a glow keyframe adjustment that comes down, and it kind of looks like we faded out of the sky, and that's a good way to do a transition like that. And I kind of use this tree as like a track almost to come down on evenly. It helps to have one of these shots, a shot that seems very free and off rails, so as opposed to just a push or a tilt, one that's very kind of free. It helps to have something that is kind of grounding the shot, so your brain passively kind of, there's some sense of control and some sense of, I know where this is going, so that it's not just abstract and crazy. It's difficult to explain, but essentially this grounds the shot, having the tree here. And this is one of the most aesthetically pleasing shots in the film, in my opinion. We shot just before golden hour, kind of going into golden hour, so the light kind of refracts off of all of the leaves and the foliage and her hair, and there's like dust mites and little bugs flying around. I just think it's a really nice looking shot. Here comes the rainbow effect again, which again is all in camera due to my lens. But yeah, right here. We have plants in the foreground, very shallow depth of field, so you may not even notice them because of how out of focus they are. And when she holds this vial up, I really love this. I mean, it practically illuminates her face with how bright it is. Because the sun is like right up here and it's just hitting it perfectly. And when I was kind of telling her to move it around, when it hit that, I'm like, oh yeah, hold it there. And you get this very like hypnotizing, entrancing effect. I think it's really effective. And then she ties up her stuff, she packs up, because now she has the vial, and we cut here so quickly. Instead of having her leave the frame, I choose to cut here because she totally drops the lantern, and it's not her fault. Again, very janky prop situation. And then she, as you can see by her face, was very concerned. And then we cut to like Act 3, the beginning of Act 3, and we kind of have this suspenseful, kind of evil music beginning to come up. And she begins running home. Again, all of the sound is reconstructed, so each one of these are footsteps and grass and the lantern rattling. And then we cut to the house, which is just like a series of like micro sets. And then I've been having this media issue where I'm not going to get too far into it, but some of these shots are missing, even though I didn't change their source location. So I'm looking into why that is. But I won't be able to show you a couple things here. This is a guy, I want to give him the proper credit. Let me check. He does like astro photography and cinematography. His name is Preston Shamblin. I credited him in the description of the video. And yeah, his stuff is really cool. This is hard to do. And I don't live out in the country, and I'm not super experienced in this realm. So he was nice enough to let me use his footage. And every time we cut to it, it's darker and darker. And we're kind of cutting back and forth between her making the potion
Return to me every sunset.
every sunset, so we're kind of reminding the audience that it's in fact nighttime and she's not returning, or she's debating it. She makes the potion, and then again, because of COVID and budgetary and time restrictions, we didn't have the opportunity to shoot with like a proper family or a brother character. So we just did voiceovers for that. This is another shot that I'm not going to be able to show you, sadly.
Here, drink this.
But she says, here, drink this. And then rest, brother.
Rest, brother.
And that's right when we revealed that the girl has in fact been bled out via like a slit throat, and she is gone. And then we fade in here to her in front of the cross. Again, I don't know why I'm having this issue, but you can kind of see here she's in front of the cross. And then I think I can show you in here. Let's see. Because I wanted to show you the VFX related aspects of this final shot. So if we go to here, yeah, here we go. So this is the final shot. It's not color corrected in this instance. So this is raw right out of the camera, other than the eye effect. But she opens her eyes and she's essentially been possessed. And so if we get rid of this left eye effect, her eye goes back to normal. If we get rid of the right eye effect, her right eye goes back to normal, vice versa. And that just kind of is a subtle way. You may not even notice that her eyes are black if you're not paying close enough attention. And that's kind of what I wanted to do. Originally, it was written as yellow eyes, and that was just too over the top. So black, while it may seem like a very harsh color, with the human eye, like part of our eye, our pupil is already black, and she kind of has the like the raccoon effect going on with the shadows in her eyes, so it's already quite a dark environment. So black is actually not as harsh of a choice as one may think, and again, you can almost miss it. But if you're paying close enough attention, you'll go, oh, her eyes are in fact black. And that's the final shot. And then we cut to credits. And this is just a like a VFX plate in the background with an image and some moving God ray sunbeams through the fog and through the canopy. And as the credits go on, it actually becomes less blurry. And you can make out the fact that there's a cross back there. But yeah, that's kind of an editing breakdown. There's, of course, I could talk for a couple of hours about all of the small keyframing, audio and video things, and all the different layers. Like each one of these little green blocks is a different sound. It's a different track. You know, there's a lot to discuss here. But yeah, I hope that that was kind of a basic editing breakdown. If you're curious about the post behind the scenes aspect of the film. If you want to read more about the lore and the making of the film, just head on over to YouTube and click on the Witch of the Bog video. In the description, there'll be a director's notes blog post, and that's a blog on our website. And there's a good amount of writing there. There's a couple pages of writing there on pretty much any question or any aspect of the film that you potentially could be curious about. It should be answered there. And if it's not, feel free to send me a message. I'd love to talk about it or write a comment. That is about it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll talk to you next time. Thank you.